Can I start this meeting or do you need to turn that on?
Like,
We're live already, is it? At the full council meeting at the start of this council, it was suggested that I would be chair of this committee. I'm happy to nominate myself as chair of this committee because somebody's got to do it. Are there anybody willing to second me in this position? Thank you very much. David and Helen. Can I have a show of hands, please? Or any other nomination first of all? Everybody sit on there. We'll sit on your hand there. In which case, oh. It is quite loud. We can that down.
we can.
Thank you very much. So can I have a show of hands, please? Now it's been proposed, seconded, and there's no other. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. More importantly, can I have any nominations for deputy chair? Anybody interested in being deputy chair? And Louise has put up her hands. Anybody prepared to second Louise? Thank you, Thomas. Anybody else wanting to be deputy? No? Good. So can I propose then that we take a vote on Louise being the deputy chair? All those in favour, please. No? Unanimous, thank you very much. Louise, would you like to come and sit next to you, please? We are fully here, so there's no apologies for absence about den number 3. Any deck? Oh yes, we've got a substitute, haven't we? Apologies for absence.
So we have apologies for absence from councillor Mike Suri and councillor Thomas Taylor is here as substitute.
Thank you very much indeed for turning up. And we approve his taking the place.
And the absolutely.
It's very strange. We do have to approve people in this position.
You
We have to accept it.
just need to approve the substitute.
We're approving the apologies, irrespective of what the reason is. We approve the apologies.
We do have a legitimate reason to reassure you.
Good, thank you very much. You're
Is
welcome.
that unanimous?
Yeah, it's unanimous.
Wonderful, thank you. Was there a proposal?
So good, and Caroline. Good. So declarations of interest. Anybody got any declarations of interest that they think might affect this?
Yes, in regards to item number 10 on the agenda regarding pay settlement, I am a member of the GMB.
Thank you very much. Any other?
Are we doing 4 of them? I used to be a member. I've just left GMB this month.
I think as it's an information item, there's no decision needed, so I'll note your declaration.
And they won't
But
have any impact
it-
on your
it-
behaviour. Good, excellent, thank you very much. So minutes of the last meeting. Was the 20 something of February? On the board recently.
It was the 28th of February.
Anybody got any interest on that, in those minutes? I know that the vast majority, of course, weren't at that meeting, but you still can actually approve minutes, even if you weren't at the meeting. You're approving the acceptance of the minutes.
I think it was only yours
Yeah,
that meeting.
I can't remember it. So, I suppose we can just, I'll formally propose that we accept those minutes. So when anybody willing to second it, you're allowed to second. Thank you. Helen seconded them. Can we now have a show of hands to see whether they are approved? It's the formal record. Good. I haven't had any notification of any councillors' questions and statements. Is there anyone that wishes to make a formal statement or ask a question at this point in time? Those of you that are new, if you ask a question this time, and we haven't had advance notice of it, then of course it's much more difficult to give a proper answer. That's why we set questions in advance, and then the clerk would have actually generated a formal answer. So if you have got a question on an agenda when it comes out, please try and get that question into us in advance. Any public questions? Mr. Parr, have you got any questions on our agenda? Thank you very much indeed. No public questions. So we get on to the first main item on the agenda, which is the menopause policy. You introducing that, Jane?
Yes, happy to. Thank you, Chair. So you have before you the recommended, and that's an officer recommendation, draft menopause policy. This is a really interesting piece of work actually, in that it came out of a staffing group that was set up by some staff, meets approximately monthly, the menopause mayhem group. Disappointing level of mayhem, if I may comment. And it was suggested by the group that the council should have, as a modern employer, a menopause policy. We reflected that back onto the group and said, absolutely fine, if you'd like a menopause policy, why don't you group draft it? Which they duly did, submitted it to myself, and that is the draft in front of you today. As I say, it's very common now in workplaces that there is a menopause policy. It supports not only the staff, but the continuation of work within the council with as few disruptions and issues as possible for those members of staff who are experiencing menopause symptoms. It contributes to the corporate priorities of improving the well-being of the people of Weymouth. In a lot of our staff, are people of Weymouth and are our residents as well, and also managing our assets and resources responsibly and transparently. As we've said earlier today, our main resource is our staffing. So it comes as an officer recommendation for this committee to recommend the policy to full council for adoption. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Dr. Clarendon, Joe?
I'm sorry to sort of say this, but I do have great reservations about it. Because honestly, I'm of an age where I've been doing it. I've done for millions of others. Are we really going to go down the road of making it an illness? Because that's what it seems like. And it seems a bit strange to me, because surely, you know, after all, people that aren't in the working environment, surely, you know, I mean, surely some things have been put in place. i.e., 5 minutes, that kind of thing should, you know, I know what it means, but does that really need a policy? That's the.
I'd like to counter that. I am one of the 25% noted of women who get severe symptoms. My perimenopause went on for 5 years, and it's terrible. And when I was young and I was working in London in my 20s, there was a woman in the office in her 50s who used to have 2 days off every month because she was too ill to come into work. And had uncharitable thoughts about her work ethics. Having reached that stage myself, where for 48 hours a month you can't plan anything or do anything, I get it. Then I similarly gone through a very bad menopause, and I'm still suffering. Well, not suffering now because I'm 6 to 10 to find the right HRT in order to negate all of these symptoms listed here. I think it's wonderful, and I am so glad we talk about it now, because when I was at work, you know, we didn't talk about many stuff ever. So, you know, thank you.
Thank you very much.
No, it's something. The only thing that annoys me with any kind of policy like this, how does it impact on the residents? Do they have to pick up the work? You know, how does it impact on men, you know, because they can't come in, although earlier on, you did mention the male menopause. You know, how does it impact on the rest of the staff? Because they're the ones that are going to have to pick the work up. You can't just say, oh, I'm having 48 hours, oh, somebody else doing my work. It seems, I've got some reservations.
Louise?
So I'd like to address your first point. I mean, if there are other policies which cover it, so be it. This is just the belt and braces, just in case it doesn't cover it. Also, if you're
ill, you're ill. If like,
But menopause is not an illness.
okay, if you've got symptoms, you've got symptoms. I don't,
With all due respect, you know, I mean, Helen was very honest, I don't want. But I had to go to work, you know, I owned a dental surgery, I couldn't say bye. You know, I don't get it, I don't get why us women would want to go down that road of making it sound like we are not able to function. Sometimes you have, especially if you've got a family, and especially if you've got a business.
I hear that. It's the same as being ill, isn't it? Some people take a day off ill more readily than others. And you'd like to think that everybody would just, you know, chin up and do the best they can, and I'm sure everybody does. I can see how the menopause policy undermines that.
Well, it would be if there were a lot of women suddenly taking 48 hours off every month, because if, I'm sorry, Jane, I have no idea how many of your ladies are going through that, you know, I mean, but if it's the majority of your staff, you could be in real trouble.
Can I just have as a mere man? I think that this is suggesting that somebody may be taking time off and it would be much more understood by the rest of the staff if this policy is in place. More importantly, it's not encouraging people to take. It's not saying just because you're going through the menopause, you've got to have 2 days away every month. It's not saying that at all. It's just recognizing that some people will have needs, and we must recognize that those needs are there. It's the same with all sorts of issues, not just menopause issues. And it's recognizing the need that some people might have that is different from other people.
I hear what you're saying, I mean, I fully understand if someone is ill. There might be situations where there is no way they can go to work. But I cannot, for the life of me, see why you would want to make menopause under that umbrella. I just don't get it.
David?
Could I just point out that, and this is really important, that the number of suicides amongst menopausal women is higher than any other age group. So you're dismissing it as people.
I can't dismiss it, don't be ridiculous.
If you try to do suicide.
No, I know,
Then
but I
it's
mean, what you can say, I've been through it. I'm not dismissed.
There are degrees of it. There's a menopause where you get some of the symptoms. There's a menopause where you get really severe symptoms. There are menopause symptoms that drive women to suicide. Now, that is a fact. So,
Is it?
Yes. Yes.
David was asked to come in next.
From my reading of the policy, I can't see anywhere where it suggests that in the event that you are suffering acutely from menopausal symptoms, you will take a period of time off.
I'm just
The vast majority, as far as I can tell, that like most HR policies, it's about ensuring that everyone across the workforce is equally informed about what menopause is, that people may or may not be experiencing particular symptoms, and that it wouldn't be a bad thing if the rest of the workforce took that into account and that's it, made some very small allowances for them while they're at work. Reading through the policy, the vast majority of it is this is how it might affect you while you are in the office or working from home. I completely understand what Councillor Dickinson is saying, and I follow it, but I don't think I don't believe it's flagging it as an illness or an opportunity for people to swing the lead. I guess it's possible that it could be abused in that way, but that goes for so many policies. I'm not sure where you would stop. Thank you.
Jeff, one last point.
I was in the medical profession for 40 years, and I would have to take great issue, and I would like evidence menopause women. Because I have never, I know it's not menopause.
Thank you for that. Jane, would you like to come back with anything from the office side?
Thank you, Chair. Just on the point of clarity, that the aim of the policy is to offer support and reasonable adjustments for staff so that they do feel more able to come into work and continue their work, rather than be forced to take time off. It's to foster understanding and support within the workplace, as all of our HR policies are designed to do.
From the chair, I'd like to propose that we now take a vote on this, and I would propose the recommendation that has been made.
So, could I just come in there? I can see what both sides of you are saying, and I could agree with both sides on this. I think where Councillor Dickinson is coming from, so as a good employer, I'm sure you already do provide what is in this report, in this policy. And what I think worries you, Joe, sorry, Councillor Dickinson, and worries me slightly is where do we stop with all these policies? Are we going to have a period policy next? Because a lot of women are quite poorly every month. And then are we going to, I think, we've just got to be really careful that we don't go down a slippery slope of having too many policies.
Thanks for that. Okay, David.
I'm not sure I understand the danger of having policies around things. It doesn't. What am I trying to say? I genuinely don't get what the downside is. They're designed to educate the wider workforce about things that they might not have much experience or knowledge about, and to, well, exactly as the town clerk has just said, and to encourage people to be more open about these things if they would like to be, and to spend more time at work, not less.
Thank you very much. I put forward the motion that we accept the recommendation. Is there anyone who willing to second that? Thank you, David's willing to second that. And I put it to the vote. All those in favour? 6. All those against? All those abstaining? 2 abstentions. Thank you very much indeed.
Recommended to full council at the meeting next.
Next week, over. Moves quickly. Good, thank you. Town clerk's annual appraisal. Jane, do you want to discuss on this?
Thank you. As we discussed in the general session, the information session before, and as is detailed in the scheme of delegation within standing orders, the town clerk's annual appraisal is usually carried out by the leader and the chair of the HR committee. The more observant among you will notice that the leader and the chair of the HR committee are one and the same person. And so just for completeness and to ensure that we follow the process as closely as possible, there's the need to agree a second councillor to carry out my annual appraisal, which is coming up towards the end of August, beginning of September. And the recommendation, although it does need to be noted, Chair, and if I were able to declare an interest, I would. My suggestion is that the second councillor should be the vice chair of HR, but it is within your gift to agree who you feel is best suited to carry out.
If I may, before David comes in, the alternative would normally be the deputy leader of the council, and we haven't got the deputy leader of the council either at this point in time. We do know who the deputy of this committee is, and we do have to make some plans to get the appraisal in place for later this year. David.
That's the point I was going to make. Thank you very much, Joe.
Anybody got any suggestions or issues, or would like to make a proposal?
Anyone highly skilled in annual appraisals and need to do one?
Are we to be nominated?
Yeah, I'm happy to be nominated. I've line managed people before and done appraisals before. I'm familiar with it.
So from the chair, I would like to nominate that the vice chair of the HR committee is the person who will join me on the appraisal of the town clerk. Seconded by Helen. Can we now put that to the vote, please? All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much indeed. Right, the next is information items. Don't know if anybody wants to ask any question of any of those information items. Yeah, I'll just put information. Anybody seen anything that they don't understand or? Well, okay, good. So do we need to vote on those? Or just note them? So we're just noting that those were presented to us. That's the end of the formal part of the meeting, the open part of the meeting. Item 11, I need to exclude the press and the public because we're moving on to confidential items. And so, Mr. Barn, I'm afraid that is
Needs to be.
I'll be back. I need to propose that we exclude the press and public from this next part of the meeting. Seconded it. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Sorry. Thank you very